Yeah, hello and welcome to my session about Microsoft Sentinel today. I will give you a short introduction of me. My name is Lagler-Gruner. I'm a lead cloud architect in Austria. I'm working with public cloud or mainly focusing with Microsoft Azure since the beginning. So I'm starting really on the starting point from Microsoft side. So I also see the old Azure portal. You can also see a Microsoft Azure MVP. I'm focusing on the infrastructure and also the security perspective. You can find me on YouTube. I have my separate YouTube channel. You can find me on X. You can find me also on Twitter or on LinkedIn. And I have my private blog called Cloud Blocker ID. Okay, today the session about Microsoft Sentinel. And I want to I want to answer the following question: what is Microsoft Sentinel? Why Microsoft Sentinel is the best choice when you go or when you use cloud services, and how can you implement the Microsoft Sentinel? What are the first steps to start with Microsoft Sentinel? What is really, really important? I will present a short demo, a short introduction about the service itself, and hand over then to a live demo, and you will see what I mean with incident handling, what I mean with automation and so on. Okay, so let's start with the question, what is Microsoft Sentinel? So the official answer from Microsoft is Microsoft Sentinel is a cloud native.
Obviously, that's my last day, and then, something went wrong.
It's a cloud native SIEM system, which means you can connect cloud services like Office 365. You can connect Microsoft Defender for cloud. You can connect a whole Defender suite. The important part here is it's based on a platform as a service model, which means you don't have to think about sizing, right sizing. You don't have to think about, okay, how many services does I need, the size from a database behind and so on. So it's really Microsoft managed. You are focusing, or you are responsible for the data itself, for the data analysis and so on. It's a hybrid solution. Cloud native means not only you can only connect cloud services, you can connect for sure on-premise services like your existing domain controllers, your firewalls, your switch connections, and so on. It's limitless cloud speed and scale. So what does this mean? You can start small and expand if it's required. So you ingest today 1 GB and you can ingest tomorrow 5 TB if you want, without any changes from your side. So this is a 100% platform as a service model. So Microsoft will handle the scale up for you. And the end. Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is, I think, the most important word in the Microsoft Ignite world, or the Microsoft Ignite last week. And for sure, Microsoft Sentinel give you also the ability to implement artificial intelligence. So you have the ability to use Security Copilot, but you also have in Microsoft Sentinel artificial intelligence to to detect your threats really, really fast. The important part here is when we think about Microsoft Sentinel, you need your security operations team. So this doesn't mean Microsoft handle everything for you. You need the guys from security operations team to handle your incidents, to analyze your incidents, and also to hunt into your environment. Okay, it's cost efficient and secure. What does this mean? Cost efficient, you don't have to pay a fixed amount. You are starting small, you expand. If you have an size, if you achieve an specified size, you can activate reserved instances, but you start small, you pay as you go, and you grow up if it's required. So why Microsoft Sentinel is the best choice when we talk about cloud services, or when we talk about services which is coming from cloud or from on-premise. So let's talk about the starting discussion points when we are planning to implement a new SIEM system. The first one is the right sizing, system side right sizing. How big should the service designed to achieve to get all my data inside the system? What's the size? What's the right size for this? About disconnected services, so when we think about IoT or edge services, how can we implement, how can we ingest the data from these services outside my network? Cloud integration, Azure and more, everyone is using Microsoft 365. How can we implement exactly this data to our systems? What are the monthly costs? So we have to think about scaling. We have to think about what are my costs, what are my yearly costs, where is my return of investment. Does a upfront investment required? So do you need licenses? Do you need hardware for the system? And for sure at the end, so if we have a SIEM system in place, we also have to think about SOA. We want to automate some incidents and maybe to fix the problem automatically. So when we think about Microsoft Sentinel, how can we handle this? So the system right sizing, it's not really important for you because you're using platform as a service. So the service is scaling automatically up and down if it's required. You start small, expand, and you get the resources what you prefer or what you require. From the disconnected service perspective, it's a public service. So Microsoft Sentinel have public APIs. You can use the API to ingest your data if it's required. So in many situations, you have connectors in place. So for example, for Microsoft products, for third-party products, if your service is not, if your service don't have a connector available, you can also develop your own connectors if it's required. So you have here dedicated APIs to use to ingest your data in your system. What about the cloud integration? There are a lot of cloud connectors available. So in the past, we are talking about cloud connectors. Now we have cloud solutions. We are using a finished solution for an application. And this means you have connectors, you have analytics rules and much, much more. But I will cover this in a few minutes. About the monthly costs, you're starting with pay as you go. So the first 31 days is for free. So you can try to can make a POC for Microsoft Sentinel and you don't have to pay for the first 31 days. Keep in mind, the free period only includes 10 gigabyte ingest data per day. If you have more ingest data, so for example, if you have 20 gigabyte ingest per day, you have to pay for the 10 gigabyte, which is not included in the free period. When it comes to breakpoints, so for example, if you want to start with the first reservation, first reserved instance, the breakpoint normally is 70 up to 80 gigabytes per month. And then you get a better price from Microsoft when you start with the first reserved instance. But it depends on your data ingest model. Does upfront investment is required? No, there's nothing required. So you only need a Microsoft Sentinel. You need a Microsoft account. You need a tenant, Microsoft Entra ID tenant. You need a subscription. Deploy Microsoft Sentinel, and everything is fine. You don't have to pay any licenses. You don't have to pay any hardware components and so on. From the automation perspective, in my point of view, so there's no limitation. I've developed a lot of automation, a lot of SOA playbooks, and I don't see any limitation. So I can fulfill everything what the customer is required or what our SOC's team is required. It's really cool. I will also demonstrate a short demo in my second live demo about automation in Microsoft Sentinel. Okay, then let's go to the how. How can we start with Microsoft Sentinel? What are the typical steps to do this? First of all, we are collecting data or we are defining our use case. It's really, really important to have a good overview about your use cases. What do you want to achieve? And when you know what kind of use cases do you want to implement, you have to think about where can I get the data to achieve this use case? So this is the first thing what you have to do, define your use cases, collect the data, think about where are the data coming from. And then when it's available, we can think about implementation of visibility, implement analytics rules to get an incident if an issue occurs. And then at the end, also implement hunting rules, handle incidents, and when everything is clear, when everything is defined, you can also think about implement automation. So let's go ahead and talk about collect data. What kind of data collector types or data collectors do we have when we talk about Microsoft Sentinel? So you can see on the left side, here is the on-premise world. Here is maybe the edge side. Here is maybe other cloud providers. It depends what you want to implement. So think about the use cases and then think about how you can implement this in Microsoft Sentinel. First of all, we can connect Azure or Microsoft 365. We have here two different options. What you can do is you can implement the raw data, so for example, the activity data from Microsoft Azure, or you can also implement security alerts only. This is covered by Microsoft 365. I will also show this in a few minutes in the first slide. Then you have the ability to implement collectors. So for example, if you want to get the event log from Windows Server, so for example, the security event log, you have the ability to implement the events directly to Microsoft Sentinel, or in the reality to Azure Log Analytics, or you can use different ways. You can also implement a data collector, and this data collector is sending the data to Microsoft Sentinel. The same like Linux, if you want to get some information about your Linux system, you have also the ability to transfer the data. When we think about firewall is normally sending data over syslog, and you have for sure also the ability to implement syslog data, or if it's a structured way, you can also implement common event format if it's required. Text2 and MS Graph is also implemented or also available, so you can implement threat indicators from third-party vendors, or you can also choose Microsoft Defender for threat intelligence into your Microsoft Sentinel system and expand the functionality, also implement the threat intelligence functionality to Microsoft Sentinel. And at the end, if your service or your application don't have a connector, any connector or any connection to one of these different connector types here, you also have for sure the ability to use API calls or to build up or to develop your own collector, your own data connector, and you can save the files or you can save the data into custom logs if it's required. So when we think about pricing, so normally Microsoft Sentinel is, you pay for the data ingest, you pay for the gigabyte per day, the gigabyte per month, and also for the data hold, how long you want to store the data inside Microsoft Sentinel. Microsoft have also here some benefits for you. So when we talk about Microsoft Azure activity logs, all activity logs from all your subscriptions are for free. So you can ingest, you can place an Azure policy on your management group and say, hey, I want to ingest all my activity logs to a centralized Sentinel system, in this case, a log analytics workspace, and you don't have to pay for it. It's for free. When we talk about Microsoft 365, you can ingest the activity log data from Exchange Online, from Teams, from SharePoint, for example. And when we talk about Microsoft Threat Protection or the Defender Suite, you can ingest for free the alerts. This is the really, really important part here. The alerts only are for free, so the security alerts are for free, not the raw data. You have a connector where you can choose, I want to ingest my activity and my security alerts. This is for free, but when you scroll down, and I will show this in a few minutes in my first lifetime, when you scroll down and select the data, for example, device info, you have to pay for it. So these are the free services or the free data for Microsoft Sentinel. If you have Microsoft 365 with a security add-on, the E5 security add-on, you also get 5 GB per user free data ingest for dedicated data types. So Next one. Now we know the use case, we have the data in place, we know where we can get the data, we have the connector available, the systems are connected to the connector and sending the data to Microsoft Sentinel. The next step is to implement visibility. To implement visibility, we are working here with workbooks. So it's nothing new. You have seen the workbooks, for example, Microsoft Entra ID. You can also see workbooks in Azure Monitor. So the functionality is not specified for Microsoft Sentinel. You can choose it on different ways for different services. But the good point here is when you implement your solution in the 99%, you also get for exactly this solution, also your workbooks. And this workbooks are pre-built, so you can use the predefined workbook, the pre-developed workbook. You can also change or customize the workbook and build up your own workbooks if it's required. You have a huge design option here. So you have different, on the right side, you can see some examples. You have really, really huge options here to change your design, to define a button, to execute a logic app behind, and much more. You can also choose different data sources. So normally you're selecting your data from your log analytics workspace, but you can also, for example, ask the Resource Explorer, hey, give me please the status from Microsoft Defender for Cloud for my security, the secure score for my subscription, for example. I will also show this in a few minutes. Then we go ahead and implement analyzers. So we want to implement analytics rules to get an alert or to get an incident when one of my use cases was triggered. In this case, we using analytics rules. And the cool thing here is we have more than 100 built-in rules from Microsoft or from the community, what you can use based on your data sources. You can for sure create your own rules based on KQL queries. And infrastructure as code is the key here. So everything what you develop, you can export the configuration into an ARM template and implement it to a productive system, for example, over CI/CD pipelines if you prefer. So from the analytics types, analytics rules, we have here different rules. We have different rule types. Let's talk about Microsoft Security. Microsoft Security is a rule type. In the past, when you implement Microsoft Defender for Cloud, for example, or Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, you can build or you can create a Microsoft Security rule. The reason for that is you don't have the raw data inside your system. You only get the alert. And this means, okay, when the alert is available, you want to create also an incident. It's available for Defender or Microsoft Entra ID, but at the moment or now, the new connector, with the new Microsoft Defender connector, you don't need security rules because the new Defender connector also activate automatically an incident if in the source system, so for example, Microsoft Defender, an incident is created, you will also get an incident in Microsoft Sentinel. And the cool thing here is with the new connector, it's bidirectional. So if you close the connector inside Microsoft Sentinel, it's also closed in the source system. The next one is Fusion. It's a Fusion rule. It's based on the Fusion technology with machine learning rules behind. So the cool thing here is it's enabled automatically. You can use it. You can use this rule or this rule type. The only thing what you have to do is to ingest your data, and then the machine learning scenario behind is starting to work. The other thing is you can also implement separate machine learning rules, not based on the Fusion technology. It's the same like Fusion. So if you ingest the data, you can use it. The most common way, another one, we have also another one, anomaly rules. So if you want to enable UABA in your system, UABA is a service which collects data from your user and create a user profile. So for example, my user account is normally connecting to Azure Active Directory, maybe starting some virtual machines. Next week, I'm connecting from East Asia, for example, start 200 virtual machines, and the user profile detects here an anomaly, and the anomaly rule will create an incident. The most common rules here are scheduled rules. These rules are based on KQL queries, so you can create your own KQL queries and implement this into scheduled rules. The only thing what you have to know with scheduled rule is the minimum scheduler is 5 minutes. So if you want to implement a near real-time rule, so this means, okay, when the event is available inside Microsoft Sentinel, I want to get the alert instant, you can use near real-time rule. Is also based on KQL query, and the difference here is it's a near real-time rule, and the data or the alert will trigger in approx 30 seconds. The only thing what you have to think about is near real-time rule is limited, so you can only use up to 25 rules in your Sentinel environment. So the most common rules here are really the scheduled rules if you want to write your own use cases. So when we think about hunting, you also have the ability to use hunting rules. We have a lot of hunting rules available in Microsoft Sentinel. It's coming from Microsoft or from the community. You can create for sure your own hunting rules based on KQL queries. The thing what you have to know here is hunting rules are not running automatically. So you have to select the hunting rule, execute, and then you get the result from the hunting rules. When should you use your hunting rules? Before an incident occurs. So I want to scan my system. Is here an anomaly available? During the compromisation, you have here the ability to run hunting rules in the back end, this live streaming rules. So this means you can see and spike if the hunting rule detects something, but you cannot create an incident. This is only to help the security analyst to fulfill more tasks in the compromised situation. Or after compromising, you're also using hunting rules. You also have the ability to use advanced hunting with notebooks. Notebooks are based on Jupyter notebooks, so you have to implement machine learning in the backend and so on. Okay, so enough for this from this side. So let's go to the first live demo. I want to give you an overview about Microsoft Sentinel. In this case, I have a typo here, Microsoft Sentinel, not Azure Sentinel. I want to give you an overview about the new way how you can connect data, not over connectors, over solutions or the Content Hub. I want to give you an overview about workbooks and analytics and hunting rules. Okay, so switch to my live demo. Here we are. Okay, so we have here Microsoft Sentinel. The important part here is when you want to implement Microsoft Sentinel is a solution on top to Azure Log Analytics. So we can see this when we go to the backend. When we go to the backend from Sentinel, you can go here and go to the workspace settings. And here you can see it's a normal Log Analytics workspace. And on top, on Log Analytics, you deploy Microsoft Sentinel. And when you have deployed Microsoft Sentinel, you have exactly this view here. And you have the starting view. This is the new overview view. Here you can see also when you switch back to the old view, the old style, but I will recommend use the new design. Here you get an overview about your incident, how many incidents are new, active or closed. You also get an overview about your automation playbooks, how many automation playbooks have performed an action, about your data structure, how many data are ingested into Microsoft Sentinel. And here it's really, really important you get also an overview about healthy and unhealthy connectors in your system. Okay, how can we implement connectors? In the old way was here you have the ability to select data connectors and select one of your connector and enable it. You can see here I have only 12 connectors in my environment, and this is not really so much. So normally we have here a list of 300, 400 different connectors. And Microsoft changed here the way to implement data sources or to implement the connectors in your system. They switch everything, or they put everything into the Content Hub. The Content Hub is the new way to add new connectors or new analytics rules, new content into your system. So let's switch to the Content Hub. And here you can see I have 331 solutions available. So you can use all of the solutions for free. Not all. I found out one solution is not for free, and this is SAP. For SAP, you have to pay for. But when we go to, for example, Azure Activity, sorry, I have to check here. Azure Activity, you can see here, I have content type, I have 13 analytics rules. Sorry. I have 13 analytics rules. I have one data connector available in this solution. I have 14 hunting queries and one workbook for the visibility. And this is for free. So what you have to do is you have to install the connector. And when the connector is inside your system, you have the ability to choose, okay, what kind of analytics rules I want to activate inside the system. So let's have a look to an install connector. In this case, I have security, health, and audit implemented. Now, this is wrong, not the best choice here. Let's go to the Defender XDR. With this connector, with this solution, you get 10 analytics rules, one connector, and one hunting query. And you can also see here's an update available from Microsoft, so you can update the solution if it's required. But let's go ahead and change the connector itself, or the services, which is inside the solution. We can go here to the Manage button and can see what kind of solutions or what kind of services we can implement into the Microsoft Sentinel. Here you can see the Microsoft 365 connector is in use, and this is from type data connector. And here you can see a lot of analytics rules. And if you want to implement, for example, exactly this analytics rules, you can click here on Configure, implement an analytics rule into your system if you want. You have here also hunting queries, different hunting queries, or workbooks if you prefer. So that brings me to the next step. For example, to visualize your data. So we have now data connectors in place. You can see here when we go to the data connectors, here you can see Microsoft 365 XDR, or Microsoft Defender for XDR. This is the data connector. And when we enable this connector, we have here, when we select the connector, please import into my system. You can see the connector here in the data connector space. And on the right side, you have the ability to open the connector page and select what you want from the connector. In this case, I don't have the permission right now. You have here the option to select incident and alerts. Keep in mind, this is for free. So when we enable Microsoft 365 or Microsoft Defender XDR connector, this one here is for free. When we scroll down to the connector, for example, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint connector, and select here, for example, device information, and click on Save, you have to pay for the data ingest for exactly this device information. But when we scroll up, this one here is for free. Okay, so now we have our data inside Microsoft Sentinel. The next thing what we have to do is we go to workbooks. So you can select here from the workbooks which are inside your Microsoft Sentinel environment based on your solutions. So here you have the ability to use, for example, Microsoft 365 Exchange Online workbook. You can view the template, you can save it. When it's saved, the workbook is inside your Microsoft Sentinel environment. Saved workbooks you can find here in my workbooks section. You can see here we have different workbooks available from different sources. We have here a workbook, for example, workspace usage report is a standalone workbook. So standalone means it's not included inside a solution, with other analytics rules or other connectors. It's a separate standalone workbook that you can install from the Content Hub. So here you have different options. You can view saved workbook, view template, or delete. The view template is always the source, is always the original version. And the view saved workbook, you have here the ability to change the workbook, to have a look to the source code from the workbook and reuse, for example, the workbook for sections from this workbook in your custom workbook, for example. So this is the way what you can do, or this is some ideas what you can do with workbooks. You have here different options. You have here different styling informations. You can also implement here different tabs, different changes, different areas, what you prefer. Okay, when it comes to custom workbooks, you can have the ability to create here your own workbook if you prefer. And here you can see I have here my custom workbook 1. I want to open here the workbook. There's no template available because it's my workbook. And here you can see, I have some problems here. Here you can see we are using different sources. We are using KQL queries from Log Analytics, but we also have here the ability when we click on Edit and go to this section here, Microsoft Defender for Cloud. So this is the secure score for my subscription. And the data is not inside Microsoft Sentinel or inside Log Analytics. What we can use here is we can go to this sections, and here you can see I'm using here the data source Azure Resource Graph. And with this query here, you can get the secure score from the Azure Resource Manager, or the Resource Graph in this case. You have here the ability to use the Resource Manager, Data Explorer. You can merge data, you can use custom endpoints, your APIs, what you prefer. So we have here a lot of options, a lot of data sources what we can use inside workbooks. Okay, then we go ahead and talk about analytics rules. So here you can find your analytics rules. Here you also have the ability to implement rule templates. Rule templates are coming with solutions. So for example, if we want to implement Azure Active Directory solution here, in this case, we have the ability to create this rule, implement this rule from, this is, I guess, from Microsoft. Yes, a Microsoft Corporation analytics rule. So Microsoft designed this rule and you can use it. Active analytics rules you can find here in active rules. We have here different rule types. The most common one is a scheduled rule type. And here you can see we have another one. This is the Fusion. This is the standard Fusion rule. What you have to do is to implement the data, and then the Fusion rule will start to run. So let's go to a really simple scheduled rule. Click on Edit. The first thing what you have to define in your analytics rule is a name and unique ID. In our case, we also implement a description, severity, tactics based on the MITRE attack. Then we can go here to the queries, and here you can see this is the KQL query for exactly this rule, which is running every 50 minutes and look 50 minutes back and show, okay, in this case, the emergency admin login request inside the Sentinel logs. So when we have here this section, you can configure a lot of more functionalities. In this case, entity mappings. Here you can define entities. Entities is really important when we go to the next step, to automation, to investigate your incident rules. But we will cover this in the next session. Okay, so that's a short overview about Microsoft Sentinel. How can you enable data connectors? How can you ingest your data inside Microsoft Sentinel? And how can you use security rules or analytics rules? If you want to create rules, you have here the ability to create and select scheduled queries, near real-time queries, the difference between scheduled and near real-time query. In near real-time query rules, you don't have to choose the scheduler. The near real-time query rule is running every 30 seconds and check if something happens. And here you can see Microsoft Sentinel as a Microsoft Incident Creation Rule, which is not required in the new Microsoft 365 Defender connector. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about incidents. So when an analytics rule is detecting something in your log analytics workspace, or you get an alert from a third-party system, so from another system like Defender XDR, you're creating an incident. An incident is a relation to collected data, to collected alerts, events, and bookmarks. You can assign incidents to user. So normally the incident has the status new and isn't assigned to anyone. You can select the incident, change the incident status, for example, and also assign the incident to a user from your Microsoft Entra ID service. You can manage, you can change the status from new to active, from active to closed. And when you close the incident, you also have to define, is it a true positive, is it a false positive, begin false positive, and so on. You can implement tags. So tags are really important when it comes to find an incident based on a specified tag. And also it's really important when you implement automation. So when the automation playbook, for example, is triggered, we always add also a tag into the incident to know, okay, the playbook is successful running or is run successful for the incident. You can also implement comments. So to document the incident, what steps have you done? And you can trigger playbooks from the incident, a manually task, or you can also automate the task. The add task functionality is also really cool. So when you have an incident, you can also implement here a step list or a list what you have to fulfill for the incident and say, hey, I have to do this, 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 this. And when everything is okay, when everything is fine, you can close, for example, the incident. Additionally, to the incident, and this is based on the entities, you can visualize the attack. So you can see, okay, I have, for example, an attack from a specified IP address, and you can visualize, okay, is this IP address also available in another incident? You can define here an attack visualization if you prefer. I will also show this in a few seconds. Okay, from the automation perspective, so we have an incident. Normally, we are analyzing the incident. We want to check something about the incidents, but this is always a manual step. What we can do is we can implement automation tasks to, for example, ask the customer, okay, is this incident, or can we revoke the user session for this user, for example. We have here a huge option. We have here a lot of built-in automation playbooks, which is coming from Microsoft, from the community, from the third-party vendor. You can choose from a library for different examples, or you can define your own playbooks. Playbooks are always logic apps, so you're using logic apps with a specified trigger for Microsoft Sentinel. And here you have 3 different trigger types. You have an alert-based trigger. This is deprecated, so I don't use alert-based trigger. Always use incident-based trigger, or you can also implement an entity-based trigger for your automation. And exactly this I want to show you. I want to give you an overview about how we can automate, how can we handle incidents and also visualize incident. Okay, so in this case, we have different analytics rules. And when we go to the incident section here, you can see I have here some incidents open. The incident is coming from different sources. So you can see here, Microsoft Defender XDR. This is from the connector. This is the direct connection to the XDR stack from Microsoft Defender. And the incident alert is triggered in the source system, in this case, in Azure Active Microsoft Entra ID protection. And the alert is also hand over to Microsoft Sentinel, and you can see here the incident from the source system. You can change here the status from new to active, from active to closed, what you prefer. You can also change here the severity from medium to low or to high, and always keep in mind it's bidirectional. So if you change the incident here, it's also changed in the source system. Okay, we have here another incident. In this one, this case is a Microsoft Sentinel. It's coming from my analytics rules. So this incident is always collecting data inside Microsoft Sentinel, and based on this information, the incident will be created. This case, when an Azure Active Directory role or Microsoft Entra ID role with a high privileged role is assigned to a user, this incident will be created if the data, the information is available inside Log Analytics. And you can see here the difference. Here you can see events. Events means when we click on this event, you should see really the raw data inside Microsoft Sentinel, inside Log Analytics. When we go back to Microsoft Defender XDR, you don't see here an event because we don't have raw data inside Microsoft Sentinel. We have only the alert here inside Microsoft Sentinel. Okay, what can we do? Let's go to this incident here. You can see here emergency account login. So it's a really simple rule. I have here my emergency account, and I go to the view full details section here. And here you can see the events, the number of events, the number of alerts. Here the entities based on the KQL query, what I've defined in my analytics rule. Here you can see the tactic, incident, overview, workbook link, the analytics rule, and this is exactly the analytics rule what I've created in my system, use case 01-008 analytics rules, AAD, emergency account login. Here you can see text, you can assign text, you can create text, or you can delete text, what you prefer. Here's a direct link to the incident, so you can use the direct link and, for example, send an email to the customer. Okay, we have a new incident. Here's the link, have a look to it, and the user is coming directly to this incident view here. Here you have the ability to add new comments, and on the main view, you can see an overview about the timeline from the incidents. Are there more incidents available? Here you can see a detailed list about your entities. And on the right side, you can see anomalies. You can see your insights into the user account, reset password, what are related events for exactly this user. When we go to the investigate, and this is exactly what I mean with the visualization about the incident, we go to investigate. And here you can see this is the incident. These are my entities. And when I click here, normally, not this related alerts. Okay, related alerts. Here in this case, we can see, okay, does the system have related alerts based on this admin account? We can go here, click on the related alerts, and you can see here, we have a lot more of incidents available based on this user account. And then we have the ability to scroll down into the attack phase and see, okay, what happens really. Okay, so let's go to the automation topic. Here an example, I have here my user account, test well managed account, and the account is logged into my system. And this is not 100% correct now, but what happens in the past is the user is also connected over a Tor browser. And Azure Microsoft Defender XDR stack, or in this case, Microsoft Entra ID protection, detect this. No, okay, this is the user is coming from an anonymous IP address, and give me the information inside Microsoft Sentinel. What we can do now is we can open the details from this incident, and we have now here different options what we can do. We can execute an incident-based trigger, which means incident action, run a playbook. The bad thing here is, or not the bad thing, the topic here is if you have here an incident with more than one user, we have to know, okay, what kind of user we want to, in this case, for example, revoke the session. We have now a new option. We have now an entity-based trigger. We can go here to the entity and say, I want to exactly execute and playbook for this entity. Go here to run playbook. And here you can see my entity-based trigger playbooks what's available in my system. And here I have one entity, one playbook, Microsoft Entra revoke user session. So what I do now is I'm executing now this playbook. The playbook at the back end is starting. So you can see here a logic app, and logic app is running. It's running and it's waiting. Why it's waiting? We have here an functionality inside the playbook. When the user is not in a specified Microsoft Entra ID group, we always ask, is the request valid or is it not valid? So you can see here, the playbook is running, it's waiting. Here you can see I have an email. I got an email, and here you can see what happens. We want to revoke the user session for exactly this user. Is this request, can we approve this or reject this? In this case, I select approve. I have to approve it again. Go back to my session, here you can see now it's done. So everything is finished. We can wait now a few seconds, I'm sorry. And the user session is now revoked. So we have to re-log in into the system. And this is always, everything done by exactly this playbook. And at the end, when everything is fine, when everything is executed fine, the customer will get a second email, okay, the revoke user session was successful in this case. We also add here inside the incident, so when we refresh here the incident, we also add here in the activity log an information that the revoke user session playbook was successful. Okay, so that's one use case. You have a lot. I can show you a lot more use cases, but we don't have the time for this. You can find a lot more of playbooks here in the playbook templates view. So if you want to implement, for example, restrict MDE URLs from the system, you can have a look to this playbook. This is coming from the community. Implement the playbook, create the playbook, use it. And you have here a really a lot of different playbooks, a lot of sources available what you can use. And this is really important, for free. You don't have to pay for any playbook. The only thing what you have to pay for is for the execution. And this is really cheap. Okay, so that's it. That's from my session, and from the time perspective, I'm really in time. Let's have a recap for Microsoft Sentinel. Microsoft Sentinel is a platform as a service product, so you don't have to think about resizing, right-sizing, scale up, scale down. Everything is done by Microsoft. You're only using the service, you ingest the data, and everything is done by Microsoft in the back. You're starting with pay-as-you-go. Pay-as-you-go means you pay for that what you require, what you ingest inside Microsoft Sentinel. The first 31 days are for free. Also keep in mind only for the first 10 gigabytes per day. And when you came into a situation about 70 gigabytes per day, you have the ability to use reserved instances. It's high available, it's high scalable service, and you have a better investigation and analyze security issues when it comes to hunting. Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot to show you the hunting option, but the time is finished. And you also have a massive automation option. You have seen one use case, but I have a lot more use cases available. Yeah, that's it. That's from my side. If you have questions, feel free to ask.
Nothing question-wise from myself, but just a huge thank you. That was an amazing overview. Really, brilliant detail. I have to confess, there's loads that I've learned in the last hour. So, thank you. It's been absolutely awesome. There was one question in the chat that came from John. Actually, it was about links to sort of community-based hunting rules, and I suppose one thing I would probably add as well is there any way you'd recommend starting if you're perhaps new to Sentinel or looking to implement it? Are there any resources you could share? Or
yes, for sure. So we'll share once more. So Microsoft have its own GitHub repository. So what you can do is go here to Microsoft, search for Sentinel GitHub. And here you have a huge GitHub repository with different source codes. So for example, when it comes to hunting queries, you have here the ability to use to implement hunting queries, for example, for Azure Active Directory.
Wow.
Here you have the YAML file, also from the playbook perspective from Parser. But yeah, this is really huge. What I recommend to learn Microsoft Sentinel, do you know the Ninja trainings from Microsoft? It's also for free. And I always recommend these trainings for Microsoft Defender, for Microsoft Sentinel. Really cool trainings for free from Microsoft. So this is
brilliant.
Really good.
Thank you. I'll just open it up if anybody else has got any other questions. Let me just have a look at the chat. I think that's everything. So yeah, just thank you. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll move over now to Thomas. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye.